And we're back with Tom and Edwin's excellent adventure. This time we actually find ourselves taking a nice little break. Some beverages to refresh the spirit. And we're going to take a small little detour and talk about the community church. Tom, you started the community church of Lake Forest and Lake Bluff about 16 years ago. And I've had the honor of being there for the last 10 weeks and to shadow you. Yes, like Peter Pan's shadow, so to speak. And I want to hear more about it. Can you tell me the story of the community church? What is the community church?
The community church, in a nutshell, endeavors to provide inspiring worship and compassionate service and opportunities for spiritual growth. And that's our church in a nutshell. Excuse me, we're about a few over 200 families. We've been in existence for 16 years. And we started back in 1999 when I rented the chapel at Lake Forest College and invited via postcard, because people weren't sending too many emails back then, the people I knew to our worship service. Called it the Community Worship Hour. And my idea was to start a micro church. A micro church is like a microbrewery. You would know about microbreweries, my sense is. A microbrewery doesn't sell as much beer, and they don't try and serve the whole world. They do some things very, very well, though. Same like a micro car dealership. They sell high quality, high-end cars, but they don't sell millions of cars. They don't rely on volume. My notion was a micro church would be a church that didn't do everything under the sun, but it did some things very, very well. And our focus was on worship and then ultimately on pastoral care. And that's was the idea behind the community worship hour. My background is mostly in tall steeple churches. In seminary, I spent a year at Fourth Church, where you were in Chicago. Spent 3.5 years. Great experience at Second Presbyterian Church in Indianapolis. Wonderful people down there. But what I learned is that sort of corporate model of ministry, that tall steeple model, wasn't a fit for me. And so in the years that followed, I had a great opportunity to go to a small and then dying church in Lake Bluff, the Union Church of Lake Bluff. They had gone from 200 members down to 66 members in just 5 years because of a fight over a pipe organ, the kinds of things that churches do. And the congregation there gave me a wonderful opportunity to do some sort of experiments in ministry and to do some innovative sorts of things. And happily, it worked out very well. The problem is, after 6.5 years, as often happens in turnarounds, I was absolutely burnt out. Wasn't sure I wanted to keep on being a minister, and so I took some time off and really thought about things. Did some consulting, worked at Lake Forest College, and I realized that I did want to be a minister, but what I really wanted to do more than anything else was start my own church. And it was sort of a vision of a micro church that I had developed when I was in this Doctor of Ministry program at McCormick. And even though Carl Dudley, bless his heart, refused to let me write my thesis on it, he said your idea of a micro church would never work. I went ahead and did it anyways, and wrote up a business plan. I rented an office space from my friend Mark Ratliff, a little 6x7 secretarial area. And the president of Lake Forest College, David Spatafor at the time, rented the chapel to me, for I think like $100 or $75 a week for 35 weeks. And, with a lump in my throat, having named it the Community Worship Hour, we held our first service in September of 1999. And what was different about it was I funded it myself. It wasn't because I necessarily had any money. I just knew it was on my bucket list, probably number one. Something I really wanted to do, which was to start a church that was different, and different because it really focused on meeting needs of people in the society and in the culture in Lake Forest and Lake Bluff. So instead of being a church and saying, oh, well, we've been here 150 years, and you people now at the year 2000 have to adjust your lives to fit into our church culture. Instead, it was a church culture that was formed basically in the year 2000, trying to understand the needs of people at that point in time in history. And that was kind of what was different
and
about
it was other-oriented. So it was sort of, how do we meet the community's needs, as opposed to how does the community show up to our 150-year-old gig?
Right, and the reason I started was on the notion that I'd have living in the community for quite a while, that there were a lot of people who were frustrated with traditional organized religion. They were tired of the bureaucracy. They were tired of heavy-handed financial tactics, always putting the squeeze on money, telling people that they had to join up and join committees and come to the potluck and go to Sunday school and everything else under the sun, or they should feel guilty if they weren't doing that. And what I wanted to do was provide a place where people could go and worship, and that was it. Almost like a takeout restaurant, where you go and get your food, you're fed, and you're on your way, or a drive-through window in a sense. And
this was September 1999.
This was September 1999, and I thought there was a niche, talk about marketing, in the community, a créneau that said, there is a big enough population of people who wanted to be spiritually engaged and be in community, but didn't want all the extra stuff that went with organized religion at that time.
So you had the worship hour, and did you party like it was 1999? I'm just saying, is it a good time?
I wouldn't say that we partied like it was 1999. Were you even born in 1999?
No.
Now, all I can tell you is that there's one guy here who's started a new worshiping community and one guy who hasn't as yet, and you can tell by my hair
you quoting Terry?
Terry Moran, that's exactly right. And so for 3 years, we were the community worship hour, and as I tell some people, it was like a football game, because a lot of Sundays there were about 11 people on each side, and it was very frustrating because we didn't bring in enough money to pay for the rent of the chapel and insurance we had to have and marketing costs, and to pay for a musician, et cetera, let alone pay me back for what I had invested in it. And so it was a very frustrating time, and it was really hard, for example, to work on a sermon and work 20 or 30 or more hours a week trying to develop the church, and then on a particular Sunday 15 people show up, and then at the end of the service you look in the hat and there's $75, and to know that you have to dig in your pocket to pay for the musician and to pay for all the other stuff,
and not even take any pay for yourself,
and not take any pay for myself. So it was a really challenging time.
Did you cry?
Well, I cried a lot.
Just so, if you're starting a new worshiping community and you find yourself wanting to cry or crying, remember, big men also cry.
Big men. Big men cry. So it was a terrifically frustrating time. And so we got to the end of the third year, and a friend of mine, Tom Pasquazi, said, "Dude, it's okay. You can give it up. You don't have to keep doing it." And other people were sort of encouraging me, like, "You know what, Tom, we know this is what this is doing to you." And it was very difficult because with my wife and our family's 3 kids and everything else, and making my living doing other things and trying to be focused on that and start this worshiping community, it was pretty much impossible. And so I made a few changes, and that's what you'll find out about the next episode on the community church.
All right, great. Until then.